Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the FPL show here on Paulie29 here on YouTube or on the FPL show feed on Spotify or any other podcasting platform. As you can see, once again tonight, I'm joined by Damo. How you going, mate?
Not bad, mate. Not bad at all. It is another week of FPL incoming, and it's the hallmark of the start of what is the busy period of FPL. Time where it will be make or break for a lot of players in and around outside that 1.5 mil rank.
Yeah, and the good thing is it is fantasy silly season. There's no more international football for 4 months. It's wrapped up finally. We spoke about this last week. We can finally get into a rhythm. If you haven't seen where our teams are at currently, make sure you watch the previous video. We went into a lot of depth around where our teams are at last week. Obviously, with international break, we have a lot of extra time to be able to unpack that information. So there's no point in us going through all of that once again. We might touch on our teams and see where we're at with transfers, but I think the main focus for today is around coming out of the international break and then sort of some future planning through this busy period. So if you are excited to see along, make sure you like the video, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe. I must say there were a few subscribers that did come from the last podcast, and the average view duration was a bit higher than normal, which is awesome. So it shows that you guys are enjoying these longer videos. So if you are, get in the comments, let us know what your team's looking like for this week, and let's get straight into it. Damo, first of all, mate, what has caught your eye this international break?
What's caught my eye has actually been the few niggly sort of injuries that have been picked up by a few of the bigger FPL names as well. Also put out there quickly for those that do leave a comment, you could always leave a question for us to answer for the pod coming up for the following week. So if you have a question going, oh, I like this guy, by the way, and I like the way he looks, or someone in the international break that caught your eye, in that comment section, give us that question. We'll answer it in the future pod. With that being said, though, the niggling injuries is what's caught my eye the most. You saw Son go down. You saw Son in the end play against China get kicked all off the park, basically, even though he got a few returns in that game. Haaland went down. Edison didn't play for Brazil. There was a few.
Bowen.
Bowen got dropped from the England squad due to a niggly injury. Isaac's flag, Wilson's now out completely. There's been a lot that's changed over the last week.
So a lot of fantasy relevant players as well.
Correct. And it makes a few other players more nailed. It makes other players a little bit, and it probably means for your future planning, it's kind of going down the way, who's going to be most nailed to play as many games over this busy period. And maybe it might be worth going for players that maybe play for a lesser side, but are going to be playing 90 minutes plus, then maybe over a couple of these guys that are playing for a couple of the bigger clubs, but might be rotation risk.
Yeah, and especially with the fixture congestion that we're going to see, everyone's playing, 3 games in 10 days, 2 games in 8 days. You want guys that are going to be guaranteed to play at this point. You can probably carry 1 minute's risk and pray that when they do get rested, it's a full rest as well. So you can utilize your bench, because I think a lot of people have money in the bank. I think a lot of players these days are running with pretty deep squads, like at least 14-man squads. It's pretty rare that people are running, 12. I think, maybe the 15th slot might be a, Bayer or like a Charlie Taylor, and you don't really want to play him. But normally you've got guys to cover. So say you've got a Phil Foden or a Darwin who might actually get completely benched for a game. You should have cover from your other players. So, look, I think we've already spoken about him once. I think the first person who's the most relevant that I want to bring to the screen is Alexander Isak, because we weren't talking about him last week, and that was purely based off of him not being nailed, was probably the best way to put it going into the international break. He's someone who has absolutely exceptional data, albeit his minutes are a big risk. We've always said you want the nailed Newcastle attacker that's there long term. Looking at Alexander Isak, I don't have a comparison there to him versus anyone else, but talk to me about your thoughts about Alexander Isak moving forward.
Well, the reason we didn't mainly speak about him last week is we knew he had this injury concern and Wilson wasn't injured. Now, we've now got the news that Wilson's going to be out for probably until after Christmas, and that's, 6-7 game weeks nearly? It's a big old time because there's so many double game weeks in the lead up, and obviously the Christmas period of Boxing Day, the day after, whatever, which means Isak is very nailed. Also, there's been news that's come out so far throughout this international break. We watch other FPL content creators like FPL Mate, Let's Talk FPL, Raptor. They're all saying that Isaac's injury isn't reported to be as bad as first feared. If to the case of where a lot of them are suggesting he's going to be starting from this week moving forward, and if Wilson's not playing, we know Isaac is then completely nailed because they need that pure number 9. So I think doubling up on the Newcastle attack with Gordon and Isaac that are going to be nailed for this period could actually be very viable. And I think he's that viable. It almost could be a way that you move your squad into a 3-4-3 sort of shape if you want to carry another striker like a Darwin or a Watkins through this as well.
Yeah, I 100% like that thought process. I'm just bringing up on another tab quickly the XGI for players this season, and it's funny that in the top 10 throughout the whole season, Isaac's not there. Now, if I go per 90 minutes, though, I'm hoping that he is going to be there. And, wait up. If there's a way I can filter this, because there's some guy that's played like 9 minutes who's top from Chelsea, David or whatever his name is. I don't know who he is.
Okay. Yeah.
So Isaac actually makes the top 10, and that's including the top 3 guys have all played 9, 2, and 6 minutes. So I'm not really counting them.
Okay.
So, but Alexander Isaac is on there with Haaland. Wilson is actually second in the guys that actually play. Then it's Salah and then Isaac. So.
And that just shows you that if there wasn't a minutes risk, he would probably be incredible. Yeah. The fact if Wilson or Isaac played in another Premier League team and was 100% nailed on, it just shows you how good either one of them would be in their own team. And now we got the opportunity where Isaac will be that main man moving forward with Wilson's semi-longish injury. Yeah.
So I think with that fixture run coming up as well, Chelsea, Man United, Everton, Spurs, Fulham, Luton, Forest, there's goals there. If he can stay fit, the concern would be through the Christmas period that he's going to play so much football that he could pick up a niggle, which is just as likely. But I think you got to run, he's 7.4. I think you could easily run a forward line of him, Darwin, Haaland, or Solanke, Isaac, Haaland. You could just make the money work because there's so many options there. If you wanted to get off Ollie Watkins as well, you're making money. He's playing in a more consistent attack as well, and we know he's a lethal finisher. He'll take penalties as well when he's on the pitch. So he is just an absolutely brilliant asset who didn't cross my mind initially. With 2 moves, I could easily get to him this week as well if I wanted to. And I'm also in a position where with my team, I don't have any forced transfers because I'm going to bring on the next player, which is Jared Bowen, where Dom was freaking out to me earlier in the week when we saw the news on Bowen. He goes, "You seen the news? You seen the news?" I said, "It's fine." I've seen a press conference with Gareth Southgate who said it's nothing serious. Instead of travelling away to wherever they were playing like Armenia or something. He goes, "I've just sent him back to training, precautionary." The other concern is Mikel Antonio's gone down with a bad hamstring injury in this window as well, or in this international break. So I reckon David Moyes might have got on the blower and said, please do not play Jared if he's not 1,000,000% fit because we need him to play up front. It sounds like Mohamed Kudus is going to be locked in that right wing position as well, and he's about 6.4 mil. He could be an absolute lock for this run of fixtures for West Ham. Everyone's spoken about the run from this point on. Burnley, Palace, Spurs, Fulham, Wolves, Man United, Arsenal, Brighton is just you want a nailed West Ham attacker. I think Bowen will be fine through the middle. He'll play 90 minutes. He won't be on penalties as long as Benrahma's on the pitch though, which is a bit annoying. But he just plays every game for West Ham. That if you've got the number 9 for West Ham at 7.7 mil as a midfielder getting 5 points a goal, there's not really many players that are essential, but I just think at his current ownership, which I can pull up, he is currently owned by 30% of the game now. He is climbing big time in rank, but I'd still be very worried if I was part of the 70% that didn't own him.
Yeah, and I'm part of that 70%. Obviously went over for Bruno instead of Bowen last week, which I will say I've got a little bit of FOMO that I don't own him and whatever. My intention, even on this run of fixtures, is not to get him just because I'm not convinced by West Ham at the moment. But I'm more not convinced by them as a side, not Bowen
by him, because he's been returning. He's returned in every away game this year too. He's just unbelievable.
Almost get it at that stage.
Right. You're just breaking up a bit.
Is it worth me selling Son to Bowen? Not this game week, but
wait up, Damo.
Selling.
I've not heard a thing you said. You R2D2, you're breaking up.
Okay, that's very odd.
All right, you're a little bit better there. Now? A little bit, but your quality's real low.
I don't understand what's going on there. Maybe we're having some technical
difficulties. Absolute... Wait up, I think you... I don't know. I think it's
I
okay
should
now.
be. You are okay now?
I
We're
think
all
so.
okay? All right. I don't know what technical difficulties have gone on there because the internet's
Nah,
been
yeah,
usually very good.
camera's gone ballistic. Unless it's me, I don't know. But
Everything's fine on my end.
all right, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Main reason, or the main reason I want him in is because of how well he's performed, and I'm thinking of selling Son to fund it, which is a crazy idea. I'm giving Son this game week because I have to, which means I miss Burnley, which is giving me a little bit of anxiety for Bowen. And the reason I went for Bruno was for the massive upside of him playing, obviously, Sheffield last week and he got nothing,
Luton.
which Luton, sorry, last week and he got nothing, and Everton this week, which I still think Bruno could do very well in with the data he does generally possess. Look, my preferred move last week would have been the Bowen, and I really wish I did do it because it was a better move longer term, but it also meant that would have made it very hard for me to get Embuemo, and I think Embuemo's nailed if we,
Yeah.
if you look at it look long term too. So there might be a world where I sell Son for Bowen, but there's also a world where I sell Son all the way down to like Cole Palmer to fund like all my other moves. So yeah, it's a weird one, and it's not sitting here saying I'm definitely going to sell Son. If Son and Spurs look better against Aston Villa, then obviously I can't do that. And then with the midfield that I want, one person has to make way. And I really think I'd prefer Mbemo over Bowen if that's the decision I have to make.
Yeah, I think just the Embuemo, he has the minutes, he's got penalties, and it's similar output. So I think if you're making that decision and you're saving quite a bit of money going Embuemo, you're saving, half a mil going Embuemo. So there's a few things going in that favour as well. So I'd be more than okay with making that move too. So I don't think, other than Haaland, look, Haaland will play. There's Norway were playing for absolutely nothing in that period of games as well. So the fact he wasn't in the squad's a good thing. I think, man, he'll be fine. Early kickoff.
He'd be fine.
Yeah. So no issue there with Erling Haaland moving forward as well. So I think coming out of the international break, that's pretty much all the main talking points. There hasn't really been a whole lot else. I mean, I don't know, Son, he's not even flagged at the moment. I think he'll be fine, but he's definitely someone worth considering what we do with him because they just look dreadful without Madison at the moment.
I think one game is not enough to judge. If they look dreadful again against Villa, and I mean dreadful, I mean like really poor, then he's worth selling. If he shows something against Villa, then I might keep him one more week. My only worry is that there's money tied up in Son, and if he starts getting sold quickly, I don't want to lose that value that I have built up in him.
Yeah.
So it might be the case that if he looks really poor against Villa and Bowen looks as good as he generally does, there's definitely a world where I could move there. Obviously, there's other midfielders I want to speak about, like Palmer's long-term fixtures are good. Hangy Chan looks incredible at Wolves for the points per million. There's so much that you could do that you could even revamp your squad. I haven't taken a hit all season. Within 3 moves and taking a hit, you could change into 3-4-3 and have the option of having Isaac with another 2 strikers. Alvarez comes into that team and the double comes around. There's so much that you could do that Son could become a sellable asset, but I don't think he's someone that you should be selling this week ahead of the Villa game where Villa defensively aren't the greatest and will play a high line, and this would be the true test if Son's keepable or not, because this is a game with Madison. I would expect Son to return twice.
Yeah.
If he can return at some point in this game, then it's probably worth keeping and moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned taking a hit potentially this week because I actually think I might have to in order to do what I want, because I'm just waiting for my screen to load, because my ideal moves would be Archer, Diaby both out to start moving things around. Now, if it was to be 2 moves, it would be Solanke and Palmer, which, as you can see, leaves me with negative 0.1 in the bank. So we can't quite do that move just yet. But someone I'm really keen to move on is Matty Cash, because the attacking returns are not there at the moment. And Villa's defence are definitely not looking like keeping a clean sheet anytime soon either. So in order to take a -4, I haven't actually looked at the defenders that I'd want to bring in because I feel like I've got good coverage defensively anyway. But what I'd be looking at doing is, can you push this striker up to Isaac at, was he 7-4? Let's see if he just comes up. And that leads you 3.9. That brings you, what, Charlie Taylor in?
Yeah.
So wherever he is, I don't even know where he is. Maybe he's gone up, but he might have gone up to 4. So, you bring in probably George Bulldog just for a place sitter, which I don't particularly like. So I don't actually know how I feel about that as a -4. To bring in Palmer and Isaac to move on Diaby and Archer. You're kind of switching Archer for Bulldog, and then you're moving Diaby and Cash to Palmer and Isaac. So that's just one way of being able to do it that way. Not fantastic because I want to keep Trippier, but then the rest of the team I'm pretty happy with anyway. So if it means I have to ride a 15th man for a while, then I do. I just want to quickly go up to 4.4 and just see where is Charlie Taylor. Let me just go to. Oh, there he is. I saw him. Yeah, he's up to 4, which is frustrating because at 3.9 he would have been good. But what are your thoughts on potentially taking a -4 in that context?
I don't hate it, that's for sure, because I'm thinking more long term. This game week, yeah, it's not too bad. We don't know what's going to happen with Darwin, so it might even be worth benching him. Simicast often plays Man City. But I think if you get through the 1 week of pain, I'm just thinking longer term, you're going to get so many options of, do I play only 3-5-2? Do I play 3-4-3 this week? Is there a world where I'm playing
4-4-2?
A 4-3-3 even with Simicast, Trippier, Guay, and Gabriel having some amazing fixtures coming up.
Yeah.
And then picking your 3 best midfielders and those 3 strikers. It just gives you a lot of flexibility. And I think with the silly season coming up, having that flexibility of being able to play players that are 100% nailed, if they've got a niggly injury, they're going to miss a game week, which is only 3 days, a niggly injury, 3 days out, they miss 1 game week. Having that potential to be able to do that could be huge. And that always means that, generally if your team looks like that, obviously for you in this case, it doesn't. Your bench is usually pretty good if you're taking a big money out, which if I'd make my moves moving forward, that would be Son coming out. And then, yeah.
Yeah. So Bulldog has been playing recently too. So he was injured, wasn't he?
He was injured, and then everyone sold him because everyone had him. He was the most owned 4.0 at one stage. So I think everyone got off him to go to Charlie Taylor, and that dropped his price. And now he's back. So look, I expect him to play.
As a playing 3.8 in silly season, as a bench cover is not the worst. So that is, for me, that is a definite option because, yeah, I agree with you. I don't particularly want to sell Son because the selling value is 9.4 and he's at 9.7. So it's just, he's almost just going to be a set and forget, I think, because he's on penalties. We don't know that, but we'd assume he's on penalties. He's playing for a decent enough attack. I think you just got to ride him.
They've got nothing else as well. They don't have Europe. They don't have anything else.
He's playing one game a week.
That's it. It's EPL game. Ange can't afford to rest him with the injuries they got as well for the midweek games. So unless he picks up an injury, he's nailed. That's the whole reason why I want to give Son as many chances and as much as it looks for Spurs to look good. Because if they do, then he's not sellable. And then obviously I need to make my funds elsewhere. The same thing with Son. I think Trippier is the same too. I don't think really Newcastle can afford to not play Trippier with how the defense looks at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I think the most nailed on assets, Haaland, Salah.
So there's one rotation risk in that whole team. That's what I like about this team.
Correct.
You can ride Darwin. I know Simicast is Simicast, but at 4.5, whenever Robertson's ready, that can just be anyone. Like that 4.5, you can go to Colwill, you can go into the second Newcastle defender with some money in the bank. There's Crystal Palace double up or Everton. You want a Michaelenko or there's options for waiting to see what defenses do in December because Robbo won't be back till the new year anyway. So I think this team gives you really good balance. The one thing I'm about to bring up is some comparison. You can see I've taken Isaac out of the team. I think when you're looking at that list of strikers on the right-hand side, you're probably looking at Alvarez versus Isaac. I'm just going to bring up their data, but without looking at it, Damo, which way do you reckon you would sway whilst I bring up their information?
Definitely Isaac right now, and then Alvarez from the blank onwards. To be fair, 16 and 17 and the blank's 18, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think those 2 fixtures leading in are very good for Alvarez. I didn't own him previously. I definitely want to own him now. What I like is a lot of people that currently own him have been selling him. And I really think if he blanks against Liverpool, a lot of people are going to get off him too after that as well. So I think there's a world where Alvarez gets a 7 mil again.
Yeah.
And that would be beautiful.
Oh, I don't know why the data just disappeared. That was a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't know why. You can reset that up.
Let me just reset it. But what I noticed there was, what is going on with Hub tonight? What I did see from when it was there was that Isaac is much the better goal threat, whereas Alvarez, let me just refresh the tab.
Go ahead.
Alvarez is very much an assist threat more so because of the role that he plays. And he's been scoring goals with low XG. So we know that he's playing in a much better team. We know that the XG means probably less, if that makes sense. Like he doesn't need as much data in order to return. But when you do the comparison here, when you're looking at shots in the box, shots on target, shots is actually ironically even, but Isaac is just putting them on target and he's involved in these big chances, and the expected FPL points with the minutes that he's got is so much higher. So with 90 minutes, I expect that data to just go kaboom because Alvarez has been playing 90 minutes. Isaac's been playing 65, and Isaac's killing Alvarez's data. So
Yeah.
I am very much thinking you take the look at the heat map. That just tells you the story, doesn't it?
One's more creative, playing in that De Bruyne role, and the other one's playing as the number 9 for Newcastle. It's very easy to see which way you would go. And if you look at the fixtures coming up, I'm definitely taking Chelsea, Man United, Everton, Spurs, Fulham, and Luton as an attacking set over Liverpool, Spurs, Villa, Luton, Palace, and a blank, especially with the blank there.
Yeah.
And I think after the blank, knowing that Man City will have that double confirmed in game week 20 more than
Then
likely
you go.
by that stage, you've got an easy transfer to pick up a nailed a Man City attacker for the double.
And at
that's
that
exactly what we
point,
want.
Newcastle, though, go Luton, Forest. So you might want to keep for 18, 19.
Yeah.
But then 20, which is when the double's going to be for Man City, which I'll tell you in a second, will be Brentford and Sheffield. Newcastle go Liverpool, City, Villa, and then they get Luton
Yeah.
again. But that's a good time to then jump off of Isaac
That
onto...
that might be a time where if you want Isaac back, it's a 3-week punt on Alvarez and then straight back to Isaac.
Could be as well. So,
Yeah.
look, I am very, very much thinking -4 this week. Now, I've got 0.1 in the bank, so I can wait for one more price rise on someone before I have to lock this in, because I don't like making early transfers, but if I'm going to get locked out of this move, I'm not worried about any of the injury news about all three of these guys that are flagged. I think they're going to be fine. So... And I'm not just looking at it, am I going to make a +4 on this week between Diaby, Cash, Archer versus Baldock, Bowen, Isaac? Now,
Well, you could
look at it. And Archer's someone I spoke about last week who I'd be okay to play over Darwin. I would be very much happy to play a 3-5-2 this week with Gabriel, Guehi, Trippier, that 5, and then Haaland, Isaac, and Darwin be my first sub.
I think
Because
that's fine.
Gabriel has Brentford, which he's being benched in my current team. Guehi has Luton, and Trippier's got Chelsea, I think. But again, you're not benching Trippier. So I think those fixtures are fine because clean sheets are clean sheets. You don't know when the hell they're going to come at the moment. So,
It's so hard.
But with that 5 and the 2 up front with Darwin off the bench, like that's I've got a big decision between Palmer versus Newcastle or Darwin against Man City. My worry is that we start Gakpo and Darwin could have a 30-minute window where he scores 2 or comes on for a 1-pointer if we're losing. So I'd rather take the 90 minutes of Palmer with a potential penalty over trying to chase a 5-pointer from Darwin anyway.
Correct. And I like the -4 move and I like the flexibility this gives. Obviously, I'm in a bit of a different boat.
I'm floating with that, mate. I'm not doing it tonight, but I'm very much...
I think that extra day or two of
information.
Understanding and information of these injuries is huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big point here, is try and leave it as late as possible. Now, I've got a very busy weekend. I'm in the state. But the beautiful thing is, whilst playing poker, you can listen. So I'll be able to watch the full Raptor or the full Let's Talk FPL or, live
whoever
streaming.
stream.
As much information before I make my change. If I go to share my screen at the moment, if we are allowed to share the screen, 1 second. Share now.
So my issue right now is Baldock is very much going to go up tonight.
Yeah.
What is going on with this screen tonight? Maybe it's because I'm in full screen. I don't know, but we'll see.
Maybe. Now, with my screen, as you can see here, boys, I've got 2 free transfers. I got 0.0 in the bank because I've moved up to Bruno as a punt, and I'm obviously not selling Bruno this game week with him having Everton. My plan was always to sell him next game week for Mbeumo. That's the main reason we brought him in. Is my plan moves actually to go Diaby, who I know has a good fixture against Spurs, but to get on Eze for the next 3 game weeks, because the next 3 game weeks here is Luton, West Ham, who can't defend, and Bournemouth, before he then goes Liverpool, City, Brighton, which means that I can do that. And then obviously it becomes Palmer after this when Eze's fixture goes horrid. Palmer gets the run from 16 onwards that everyone's discussed previous episode, and I think everyone's talking about Chelsea's run moving forward. That gives me 0.6 in the bank in one move. If I really, really, really wanted to do what Paul's doing, there is not one good defensive transfer to make this game week.
Yeah,
because there's no one's gonna, you can't tell me which team's keeping a clean sheet this game week. I look at all the games and I go, everyone's scoring. So I don't need to move Cash now. I can move Cash later. He's got Bournemouth next, so I don't need to do that. If I really wanted to get Isaac in from this game week, unfortunately, it's for Bruno or for Heung-min Son, and I don't like either of those options. So I think for me, that's
you don't have an easy downgrade. I mean, look, that's the downside of going Eze. So it's pretty much you're choosing, do you want Eze over Palmer, which you probably do short term.
Yeah, and then you have Palmer in 16 for Eze, which is...
But it just means you then don't get Isaac. So that's my other conundrum I'm in as well. Do you just play it safe, not go the -4, go Diaby down to Eze, roll the other transfer and keep going? There's a world where I do that because I could get priced out before I have the information that I want as well. I think at a minimum this week, Diaby leaves my team. Cash against Tottenham's a hard one. I don't even know if I want to play him, which is kind of a reason why I want to get rid of him, because it's like I'm carrying a 5 million defender that I don't really want to play. But
the only thing that I could do with there is move Cash down to Gabriel to get extra funds in the team, and I play Gabriel against Brentford. But if you tell me right now, is Cash conceding the Spurs? Yes, he is. Is Arsenal conceding to Mbeumo? 100%.
Well, we said that last week, and Liverpool kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, because Alisson was a god, and somehow Bournemouth. I
don't see Brentford blanking 2 weeks in a row as well. And Arsenal's defence isn't as good as Liverpool's
at home.
In general.
I think, that's a big call.
No, Arsenal's defence is better away from home than they are at home, and we know that. And Liverpool's defence is much better at home than it is away from home. So they are the reverse of each other. That. Yeah, they are the much of a muchness when it comes to that. So I know we spoke a little bit about this last week as well. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I'm very tempted to go into this and then try and find some funds to maybe upgrade Baldock. But if Baldock's going to start, it's actually not the worst 15th player to have, because him and Archer, I think, are much of a muchness. Archer, it's going to be hard to predict when they get a goal, and Sheffield United probably aren't going to keep many clean sheets. So they're both going to be 2-pointers here and there, but you never know. So,
correct.
Look, I think the last thing we want to talk about this evening is a team that we could work towards, which is going to probably involve us not using a hit this week, and it probably involves us bringing in Eze this week anyway. So this is something that we've spoken quite a lot about lately as well, Damo, this draft in particular. So does that involve having Eze?
No, sorry. That's the wrong draft. Apologies, Paul. That opened up my actual team. Hold up. This one here. This one's got the one with Reece James. And there you go. Boom.
All right,
that is the one.
Us through it.
So this is from game week 15 onwards, boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen. And it's more of a team that's not built to say this is the team we're moving towards, but this is a team built of guys that will allow you to fund a lot of moves in other areas, because the points per million that you get from these guys is massive. So, this is what is predicted for game week 15 onwards. 96 team rating, 89% game week rating, but that's because the game doesn't think Reece James is nailed at the moment and stuff like that. It allows you to have rotating keeps between Ariel and Pickford. And Paul, you can back me up here. Everton have looked a lot better since we all sold Pickford. Agreed?
100%.
Correct. Now, I'm not going to talk about the defenders just yet. I'm going to talk the midfield next, because I believe, and the strikers, because I believe this is what I can then talk about what the defense does. I'm going to talk about the strikers, Haaland, Darwin, and Solanke. This could be Isaac over Darwin if you prefer those minutes. And there's definitely a world when it comes to the defenders where you can downgrade them to get Darwin and Isaac in. And there's a lot of flexibility. Now, the reason why I mentioned those three strikers is because the midfield is where things get interesting. There's no real big names in this midfield. It's only Salah. And then I've got the likes of Gordon, Mbeumo, Palmer, and Chan. What that means is that you've got a guy that's nailed for Newcastle, is an awesome winger, can play up front for Newcastle at scoring points. Mbeumo, who looks the most nailed out of the 6.5 to 7.0 midfielders, that is amazing. Palmer speaks for himself. And look, Paul, I'll let you speak about Hang Chen because he's your boy. You like him
Yeah,
a lot.
he just finds the back of the net. It's just crazy. He's returned in like 5 of the last 6 games. He's just pops up. Wolves are bouncing, and he's definitely someone I want. Not from right now though. I don't think their fixtures are great in the here and now from memory. I'll just quickly pull them up as well. So they go Fulham this week, then Arsenal. But where I really want them from is 15, which is this run that you've got up
Yeah.
already, where they play Burnley at home, Forest, West Ham, Chelsea, Brentford, Everton, Brighton, Man United, Chelsea, Brentford, Spurs, Sheffield United.
Yeah.
He can just sit there at 5.5 and just
and tick
tick
over.
over. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about this team that we have on screen is in those hard fixtures, you've got other players that are worth a lot more money or, other positions that you can play. This team set up as a 3-5-2. There's definitely weeks where you're going to play 4-3-3 because we've got
Salah and
defenders.
Mbuemo will have to go at some point with AFCON as well. So just keep
Correct,
that in
and
mind.
that funds other moves as well. But then I want to touch on the defense, and you can back me up here. Clean sheets are kind of out the window at the moment, Paul.
Yeah.
Having this much money to spend on your back line allows you to have a back line that looks like this. Levi Koa and a Stupian on your bench. That is Levi Koa with the run of Everton, Sheffield, etc. moving forward. Allows you to have a Stupian on the bench who, when fit, is the best attacking defender in the league, which hurts me to say because Trent's in this team too. It allows you to keep Trippier. Allows you to have Trent Alexander-Arnold when we know that he will eventually get a 15-pointer at some stage this season because he always does. And it also allows you to take a gamble on Reece James's fitness, if you like, as well as which I've done in this team. But you could also go for an Arsenal defender like a Saliba or a Gabriel, etc. Right? On the screen, it says I have -0.2 in the bank, but that's because of clicking around on Hub takes away money.
Yeah.
So I think that I actually afford this team by 0.1 in the bank. That's a team which allows you to have midfielders that will play, that you can rotate when they have good fixtures, and points per million, they're scoring so much. They're scoring better than the likes of, at the moment, like Martinelli and Saka, and they're doing as good as a Bowen, and they're much cheaper.
Yeah.
Allows you to have 3 nailed-on strikers in Darwin or / Isaac, Haaland, and Solanke. And
Could be really Nkunku by then too. Oh, it can't be because you got 3 Chelsea, but
yeah, but you
can
can move out.
in.
You can move Reece James to Gabriel, for instance, or Saliba, and then you
Yeah.
can. And it allows you to have a more attacking mindset of defenders for when it goes bang. It is awesome for the point potential. And if no one's keeping clean sheets at the moment, is there really need to go for guys that we think have good fixtures that are going to keep a clean sheet? Or is it worth going for guys that can... Correct. And like if you moved it through game week 16, for instance, you optimize, it's obviously going to make sure that there's all cars until there's no cars left. And let's just see how quickly we can do this. Be good. Don't be good. No, bad stuff. Boom. Right? All of a sudden, you've got a 94 rating with 96. And on your bench, you've got Kobo and Reece James against Everton, which I would almost say one of them should be playing.
Yeah.
And you've got Solanke against Man United. The game reckon's playing Pickford against Chelsea over Fulham, which I wouldn't. But you see what I mean? So many good fixtures. You move to the week after again, if I was to switch this team around, you get the double fixtures of Sheffield for Chelsea, you get Luton for Solanke.
Yeah.
In the blank game week, you've got Solanke for Nottingham. You've got so many good fixtures.
Benching and stooping in against Arsenal, although he got a hat-trick as well.
Correct. And like in this game week here, you take Mbeumo out and you take Haaland out. You've got the cover for those two as well. Yeah. And it allows you to keep him so they can keep him for the double. Like without me even going into more in depth there, and I would imagine the algorithm will like Reece James the more he starts moving forward. Hopefully he doesn't get injured.
Yeah.
Look at that team.
Well, you got Colwell there anyway in case, James.
Correct. And I'm telling you right now, Reece James would be the puntier one out of the options. You could go to any Arsenal defender if you really wanted to. There's just so much that you can do in this game week and future game weeks that going to a team that has such a good points per million in the midfield allows you to really look at the aggressive side of, well, I can go with Isaac or Solanke or Darwin and then move it to Alvarez for the double. It allows me to have the flexibility if there's injuries during this period, if people get a niggly 1-2 week injury, which is 2 game weeks during this crazy period. And it allows you to really go, you know what, well, these are defenders. If they go bang, it is a big scoring game week for yourself. Yeah. I really like it.
I really like it as well. And I think it's something with 2 transfers that I've got this week is definitely something that I'm looking towards, probably going in that direction anyway. I think obviously the Sun side of things hurts, but when you get Trent in and the balls he's playing, especially that connection with him and Darwin that we've seen has been brilliant. I think that's just one avenue that we can really exploit. So I think, look, whether I take the hit to do it, I don't really want to do the hit because it involves me getting Bulldog in, and that kind of stops me from getting to the team of that. I think if I had to compare the hit versus no hit, I'd rather the end goal of that team, which is going to take me a couple of weeks longer to get to, because I like the opportunity to play with my whole 15 players. Whereas the other team shoehorns me into playing 14 players and having Bulldog there. So you don't get the option of the double rotation in the double game week, because you then rely, you got three guys that you kind of like, yeah, because Sheffield United, you don't want to play Bulldog. So
Yeah.
I think over the next 3 weeks, I would work towards that team in game week 15. The question is, when does Bowen and when does Sun come out? Because that's where your money is. That is getting shifted. So some of that money goes from those two midfielders to get Archer up. So then you have to look at, is it Solanke, is it Isaac? Because when are you buying them? If you're getting Archer out this week, then you're probably getting Isaac. If you're waiting, then it's Solanke.
Yeah, correct.
So it's timing more than anything, I think, at that point. You got to just prioritize. When do you want Trent? Do you want Trent now? Do you want Trent in 2 weeks' time? You obviously don't want Trent this week, so you're not making that move this week. So you're probably upgrading Archer first. So you're going one down, one up. Then next week you're going one down, one up. Ideally. Also, or not even one down, and then the week after one up. So you're probably going to go 2 transfers now to start the process. What game week we're going to? 13. So game week 13, you're using 2 transfers. Game week 14, you're using 1. Game week 15, you're using a 4th. Potentially a hit in game week 15 to set your team up. And then you're not touching it for a while. Then you're just going 15 might be the week where you bring Pickford in. Maybe it's 16. You just wait to move Turner to Pickford. But you should have money in the bank to be able to do that. And that's what I'm thinking.
Correct. And I think that with that team and that setup, this is the whole reason why I've been team no hit this whole time, is that it allows me that if I need to take a hit. By this game week last year, I've already taken 6 hits, 7 hits. What's that? Negative, 20-something points already?
Yeah.
If you're telling me I can get to that team and I can take 2 moves this week if I wanted to, or just 1 move, which is Diaby to Eze, which still allows me to get to Cole Palmer anyway moving forward. Right.
I don't think having Eze long term is the worst option either.
No, correct. And then it allows me to go 2 moves next week with 2 free transfers. And then you're telling me in game week 15 for another 2 moves at a -4, I could have that team for a -4. Not bad.
Yeah.
What happens if I have to make 3 moves for a -8? Well, if that's my first hit, it's only a 1 -8 hit that I can take throughout the whole first half of the year. Then I'm still loving that as a team moving forward. I'm thinking that -8, even though maybe in game week 15 it hurts you for that game week, I think that team will outscore 16, 17, and more importantly in the blank, that's going to outscore most teams in game week 18.
I'm just trying to do this for ahead of game week 15. So what I've done is I've gone Eze for Diaby because I just think that move
I'm
short term is just unbelievable. Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, there's goals in that run of 3 games anyway. And I think Eze probably just stays because he gets Liverpool, Man City. Look, Liverpool at Selhurst Park, good fixture. Man City at the Etihad, not the worst fixture. And then it's Brighton, Chelsea, Brentford, Arsenal, Sheffield United, Brighton, Chelsea, Everton, Burnley, Spurs, Luton. I think you could easily hold Eze anyway. So, not the worst. So far, I probably should just share my screen, shouldn't I? Because I'm talking to it. So
ahead.
let me get the team up because this is probably the last thing we're going to go through tonight anyway. So for 1 move this week, Diaby out, Eze in. Then next week, it's Palmer in for Son, Isaac in for Archer. Again, without looking at what it looks, I could do this on Hub as well, but anyway, I haven't looked at fixtures, but that's what you're doing. Then you still got 1 move into 15, still got Cash. So Cash can't unfortunately turn into Trent, I don't think, 7.9. So you're there, like, are you taking a hit? You're going Bowen. You're probably going Hwang with the run. I'd say starting in 15 against Burnley. So Hwang comes in. And then if you really want Trent in 15 for Sheffield United, which I think you do, you could go with 1 hit, Damo, in that week to that team.
And you still got Costa, and you would probably play double Liverpool. Actually, you got too many players from Liverpool, so you'd actually have to take another hit to get Costa up.
Oh, fair point.
Anyway. Look, to be fair,
if you don't want Trent at that point anyway, you could just do the 1 move, no hit, Cash in 15 plays Man City, so he's getting benched. We've got Sheffield. Guehi goes
He's got
Bournemouth.
yeah.
So you could just roll that transfer anyway and just go to the one
And
transfer with that
and the
team.
week after with Cash, you turn him into any Chelsea defender you want with their good fixture on as well.
Yeah, at 16. So
You don't have to get Trent. I'll just put him in there as well
because you've got the
he's one of
money.
the attacking options.
Yeah, but
Sort
that
of
could
thing.
easily just become a Stupinian too. So
Yeah,
like
correct.
you could just
Stupion's huge.
I don't even know where's Brighton. Let me just see. So where we're talking about from game week 15. So we
Yeah.
get a few weeks to look at a Stupinian who gets Brentford, Burnley, Arsenal, Palace, Spurs, West Ham, Wolves.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't
And
take
then
a
it
hit
gets
to get a
better after that.
Stupinian in though. I'd wait.
No, I
but
wouldn't either. But I just think from the attacking point of view, if you're playing that game of, having that cheaper midfield where it allows you to go some really heavy hitting defenders and free strikers that are nailed and allows you to play the flexibility game, you got to take a Stupin for when he gets really good game weeks for that big potential.
Yeah.
Clean sheet plus 2 assists equals thank you for 15 points.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So look, I think there's plenty there to look forward to. Again, injuries, suspensions, rotations, all going to play a part moving forward. But that is just some of our transfer thinking ahead of the next month or so of FPL going into the big chaos of December. Make sure if you got to this point that you are liking, you're commenting, and you are subscribing over here on YouTube. And if you are over on Spotify listening along, make sure you head over to YouTube at Paulie29 to watch us go through all that because there are a lot of visuals there. But again, make sure you're getting in the comments, letting us know your questions, what you're thinking ahead of game week 13. Damo and I will peruse through the comments over the next few days as well and answer as many questions as we can that are related to this week and get your questions in for next week. But from us, that is a wrap on this week's podcast. We'll see you bright and early for game week 14 preview because they are going to be coming thick and fast very, very soon.